Hi kiddos, welcome to my channel Learn with Love. Today we are going to learn a new poem, No Such Thing, written by Tony Mitton. In this video, I have given detailed explanation in English and reading practice. Click on the links in the description to download worksheets, solutions and the text. To make up for my last class which was a little long, I have tried to keep this class brief and colorful. Like and subscribe if you enjoy the class and share it with your friends. Come, let's learn with love. This is Tony Mitton, the author of the poem No Such Thing. His father was in the army and so his family was often on the move. So as a child, he lived in North Africa, Hong Kong and Germany. He began writing poems and stories as a child and was also a very good storyteller. He went to a boarding school in England and there he became known for his storytelling. He continued his education at the Cambridge University and also trained to be a teacher. At the age of 40, he gave up teaching to focus entirely on writing. He is widely anthologized. See, anthology means a collection of artistic works. It could be stories or poems, but by different writers. And Tony Mitton is widely anthologized. That means his poem had been included in various books. He has won many prestigious awards like the Nestle Smarties Book Prize in 2000 for his book The Red and White Spotted Handkerchief and the Publishers Weekly 2003 Cafes Award Best Book of Poetry for his collection of poems titled Plum. Children, this poem itself is written in a very simple language and could be easily understood. Only, we should know the meanings of some new words first. There are only about 12 new words in this poem and we have already learned some of them in our previous classes. Our first word is dragon. Easy, right? You would probably know this. It is a giant imaginary flying reptile which is believed to shoot fire from its mouth. And giant. Giant means huge. A person or an imaginary creature which is very big and strong may be described as a giant. We already learned the word wizard in our last class. It means a man with magical powers. And chap is a friendly but informal way of calling a boy or a man. For example, you could say, the poor chap didn't catch even one fish. Spooky. It means eerie. We learned the word eerie in our last class. Do you remember? Spooky or eerie means strange and frightening. Then we have the word vampire. Vampires are dead people who come out at night time to suck the blood of people. They don't come out during the day because vitamin D kills them. Sun burns them. On a side note, children, do you know that vitamin D is very important for our body? Because without vitamin D, our bones cannot absorb calcium and hence they would become very weak. So doctors recommend that we stand in the sun every day for at least half an hour because there is no other way to get vitamin D into our body. So children, make sure you do that. Coming back to the subject, don't you worry about vampires because they are just imagination, not true even 1%. And ghosts are the spirits of dead people. Again, pure imagination, entirely untrue. Nothing to be scared of. Snooze means a quick nap and sprites means elves or fairies. Fairies are little angels and elves are small, tiny, imaginary people. Gremlins. Gremlins are small, interesting but very naughty creatures. They would go inside machines and meddle with the connections and parts and make it stop working. That seems dangerous and it is very bad, but luckily these are only imaginary. And cape is that cloth which hangs behind superheroes. It is so fashionable, don't you think? I'd love to wear a cape to school. I think capes should be made part of the school uniform. Then all kids would feel like superheroes. No, I'm not crazy. I just get inspired a lot. We have learned this word also in the last class, beard. Beard means hair that grows on the chin. And space. Space is the empty area around the Earth's atmosphere. Children, this entire poem is in the form of a conversation between two people. But we don't know who they are because they are only mentioned as A and B throughout the poem. So it is left to our imagination. It could be a conversation between siblings or friends or between a parent and a child. I'd like to think of it as a conversation between a brave big brother and a scared little sister. But really, feel free to use your imagination, and to facilitate that, I'll also be only using the terms A and B to describe them throughout the poem. Person A is brave and very practical. But B seems to have read or heard a lot of stories and his imagination runs quite wild. A Tamil proverb states, "Arandavan kannukku irandadallam pei," which means for someone who is frightened, everything dark looks like a ghost. In this poem, A tries to convince B that what he is afraid of are only imaginary creatures, but the imagination of B just seems to run wild. In the beginning of the poem, A tries to convince B that dragons and giants don't really exist. He says that dragons are only imaginary creatures and giants are only in storybooks. But B wonders whether to believe A because he had just seen a big green colored creature sleeping in his shed, and also he had seen a big man with a knife standing in the garden. Maybe he had seen something else and has mistook them for a dragon and a giant. Let's read these stanzas. Repeat loudly after me. Reading poetry aloud is great joy and it also helps enhance your reading skill, which is very, very important. So please read aloud after me. There is no such thing as a dragon. A dragon is in your head. I wonder what that green thing is that's snoozing in the shed. Giants are just in storybooks. They are not in real life. Then who's that? Out in the garden, the great big chap with a knife. Children, notice that the last words of alternative lines rhyme with each other. Head, shed. Life, knife. That's how it goes throughout the poem. Now let's find the rhyme scheme. What is rhyme scheme? It is the rhyming pattern of a poem represented by alphabets. How to find it? I'll teach you. First, at the end of the first line, near the last word, write the first alphabet A. Now check whether the word near A rhymes with any of the last words in the following lines. The word near A is dragon. Does it rhyme with head? No. Does it rhyme with yes? No. Does it rhyme with shed? No. Then let's leave that. Now, at the end of the second line, let's write B. Now check whether the word near B rhymes with any of the words in the end. Head rhymes with shed, right? Head, shed. So write B near that also. We are writing the same letter B because both the words are rhyming. Now at the end of the third line, let's write C because we have used up the letters A and B already. Now check whether the word yes near the letter C rhymes with any other word. It doesn't, right? So let's leave it at that. Now we have found the rhyme scheme of the first stanza. It is A, B, C, B. This is how we have to find the rhyme scheme of a poem. Shall we try that for one more stanza? So we have already used the letters A, B and C. So at the end of the next line, let's write D. Does the word storybooks rhyme with any other words? No. So let's leave that, and in the next line, let's write the next alphabet E. Life. Life rhymes with knife. So let's write E near knife also. So now let's put F in the remaining line. So the rhyme scheme of this stanza is D, E, F, E. Can you now find the rhyme scheme used in a stanza? They'll give you a stanza and ask you to find the rhyme scheme in exams. So knowing this is very important. A tells B that wizards are only make-believe, that means not real. But at the same time, B was wondering about the man whom he saw with a straggly, that means untidy long beard and a long pointed hat with stars printed on it. A states that there are really no vampires and that they are just imaginary creatures from books and movies. But B was spending many sleepless nights because a chap with sharp teeth was flapping his wings near his window during bedtime. This has even happened to us, right? Have you ever been scared at night time by the movement of a branch or the rattling of leaves outside our window? It has affected not only us but also our B here in the poem. He seems to have spent many sleepless nights misunderstanding this for vampires. I mean, if vampires are real, they would have hurt B already. The mere fact that he's fine proves that these creatures are only imaginary, right? Let's read these stanzas. Read with me. Wizards are only make-believe. Surely you knew that. So who's that man with a straggly beard and the starry pointed hat? There really are no vampires. They are just in films and books. Then who's that flapping at the window with teeth as sharp as hooks? A tells B that frightening ghosts are beyond belief. That means it's unbelievable. But B shakes like a leaf in fear of ghosts. He claims to have seen something floating in a cave. A claims that there are no aliens or UFOs. But at the same time, B seems to see something with a very scary, frightful face landing on the street. Let's read these stanzas. Those spooky ghosts are just a tale. They are quite beyond belief. So what's that shape in that floating cape that makes me shake like a leaf? There are no terrible monsters on Earth or out in space. Then what's that landing out in the street? The thing with the frightful face. A even tells B that there are no sprites or gremlins, and B wonders who was the naughty one who had put salt into his cup of tea earlier. Either B is a scaredy cat or someone must be pulling a very mean prank on him. Either ways, the efforts of A to convince B that dragons, giants and vampires don't exist are in vain, because till the end of the poem B doesn't seem to be convinced and is scared. Let's read these lines. There are no sprites or gremlins. That's very plain to see. I wonder then, who put the salt into my cup of tea. Children, I think our takeaway from this poem, apart from the new words, is that instead of worrying or spending sleepless nights because we are afraid of something, we should try to learn the truth, face our fears, and overcome it. The moral could also be whatever we read or hear might not be entirely true. We should always analyze before believing them entirely. Children, we have come to the end of the class. I hope you enjoyed it and it was useful to you. I'll meet you in the next class. Love you all. Bye bye.